Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today is episode 143, and I'm excited for this one because, first of all, it's springtime out. I picked a really nice day to record, and before my episodes, before I actually deliver them, I try to spend a few days or maybe even a week listening to the records that I'm going to talk about so that I can sort of get in the mood and familiarize myself with them. So that being said, listening to a bunch of old school 9-10 minute progressive house from the label Shinichi, which I'm going to be featuring today, was a very easy task and in fact, it was quite pleasurable. In terms of old progressive house, I don't know if you could really find a more consistent label across the board than if you look through the old Shinichi back catalog. I mean, the covers have the trademark brown paper bag look to them with the color and the graininess of them. I'll show you a couple of them here. And they have generally this, so pretty much any Shinichi record is going to look like this. They're easy to find on your shelf, and they have the trademark sticker across the top. So just I would say really a staple for any DJ. It's really, honestly, it really was a dude thing. All the male DJs that I know from the early 2000s, the guys that started spinning around the same time as I did, 02, 03, 04, 05, they love Shinichi records. Like if you visit somebody's house, somebody that still has some of their old progressive house, Yoshitoshi and Shinichi are just gonna be in there. Maybe mixed in with some of those old circulation records that used to be really easy to get back then too. But anyways, really excited to go through this with you. For today, I have 5 picks, and I think there's enough gems in the Shinichi catalog to actually break this into a 2-parter. So I'm gonna come back at some point in the future with a part 2. Right now, I'm actually in the process of procuring more Shinichi records because you can get them for, in most cases, $5, $6, $7 in high VG Plus or near mint, which makes them fun to buy. And I know there's more gems out there. I haven't finished really deep diving the entire catalog. With tracks that are 8-9 minutes, like I was saying, it takes a while to listen to them all and sample them all. So I'm just gonna take my time. I don't want to really rush it. The reason that I have these 2 in particular over my shoulder here, that's the Cuba Computers, Haunting Me, and Baru's Be Free. The reason that I have them up there, they're not going to be in this episode. I actually featured them already in my Chus and Ceballos episode. So if you missed that, if you like those records, or if you like Chus and Ceballos, at the end of the video in one of the corners, I will put up a link to the Chus and Ceballos episode that I did, and you can go back and hear my review on that. I really try not to double up on the same record twice. If I do, it would be to grab different tracks from the same record, but not doing that in this case. So before you say, Mark, what about these 2? Somewhere in the comments, just know that that's why I skipped them. So my 5 for today are, I'm going to actually start out with a kind of a sleeper, and I think one that was overlooked, and I'll explain why. So the first one that I was showing there, to give an example of Shinichi, is this one here. It's by this artist named Bidlow. Kind of an odd name. When I first saw this name on the record, I was like, wait, does that say dildo? But no, it doesn't. It's Bidlow. And the producer's name is actually Pavel Bidlow. I believe he's from the Czech Republic. And from what I could tell on Discogs, unless he has other aliases, he really only has the 2 releases that he did. He had this one and another one called The Pills that I have not had a chance to sample yet. I wanted to feature this because I think it's a really good example of a sleeper. I found it to be really cheap. There were multiple copies at the time of me looking through Shinichi's, for sale items on Discogs, and there were many people that had this for $4. Well, so I was looking at it, I looked at the ratings, I saw a bunch of 1, 2, 3-star ratings mixed in there, which were dragging its ratings down. I personally don't buy based on ratings because I think anybody that is excited to buy a vinyl can just throw a 5 at it and then listen to it for a few times, realize it's not that good, but are you really going to come back to Discogs and change your rating from a 5 to a 3 because you realize the track really wasn't as good? So like I really don't give ratings really any credence because people tend to rate right when something's new, when they're listening to it. Maybe they're like drunk or high or something, and it's just like who knows. People could also click the rating star by accident just on the website. So, anyways, why does this potentially have 1, 2, and 3 star ratings though? I think it's because half the tracks kind of suck and the other half are really good. So, in my opinion, the A and the D on here are like almost like not unlistenable, but unplayable to me. There's just something about the choice of the elements. It's just like those elements are not good. They're just not good ingredients, right? So putting a cake together and you put a bunch of sawdust and ashes in it, it's not going to taste too good. So the A and D just don't have it. And then you get to the B and C, and it's like, hey, what happened there? It's like night and day. It's almost like going from a 2 star experience to maybe a 4 or 5 star experience, depending on your specific taste in progressive house. My choice here is track B. It is called Hope, and I think it was the Cannibal remix. Really good example of sleeper, subtle progressive house, and I think would be a great track to demonstrate to somebody that had never heard a Shinichi before and say, hey, this is what this label can do. This is what this type of track sounds like. I really enjoy like the techiness of the track. Like I said, it's subtle. There aren't too many super outstanding elements in it, but it is a great encapsulation of the Shinichi sound. All right, so that was the Wildlife and Hope EP by Bidlow. And my track there again was Hope, the Cannibal remix. And moving on now to 2003, that was a 2002 release. 2003, I actually have 3 choices for you. And not really a surprise there because 2003 was really, I think, the height of all that is traditional progressive house. So no surprise that everybody was hitting home runs and really in the zone there. I actually just picked up this one this week. I'll admit I have not owned this for long, but I got this kind of like an indirect recommendation from Ryan Bauer, my friend. And he didn't tell me to buy it. He added it to his want list about a month ago. And on Discogs, you can look at your friend's activity and see what they're adding to their want list. So this is an example of me sort of stalking somebody else's wants and scoring something really nice from it. On that last Bidlow record that I was talking about, it was a double, like a 2x12 vinyl. And this is a 2x12, but in this case, I think all of the tracks on here are good. I really don't have any complaints at all. The original A1 track, Isabella, is more of a breaks track. And my pick for this release was actually the C side. It's a track called Grumpy Gourmet, and I don't know why it has that goofy title in it, but I think it really does capture like Sultan's quality. Sultan is I think highly regarded amongst people that really like tribal and progressive. His catalog, his list of productions is relatively short, but his quality control is high. I'm not saying every Sultan record is great, but if you were to just take a chance on them, I think you'll find that more often than not, you're going to be able to find a winner somewhere on one of his EPs. He's featured on Shinichi 3 times. I haven't explored his other releases yet, but they're in my crosshairs. And he's also paired up with Tommy Boy on the Yoshitoshi label for the what I would consider to be semi-famous "You Make Me Feel Ecstasy" double pack that was really good. But yeah, the Isabella EP, my pick on here out of all 4 wonderful tracks is Grumpy Gourmet. Nice vocal samples, a little bit of tech house, like feeling in the background, like a very loopy, hypnotic feel. And overall, just a really, really quality record here. I try to keep my quality control high for you all because I really don't even want to make recommends that are even on the border of not being good. So I'm confident with this one too. This is another '03 release by a trio, Swain, Snell, and Lucas. Swain and Snell sometimes don't pair up with Lucas, if I understand correctly. I think sometimes they operate as a duo, but if you just look for the name Swain and Snell, you'll be able to find a lot of '01 to maybe '04 progressive house that is really cool. One of their more tribally takes was a record that I reviewed as part of one of my Jonathan Peters episodes, which is We Need Space on Plastica. The dub mix on there is really good. On this one here, we have another double 2x12 EP. This features Traveling and Floods of Water with different versions of both. Like there's a Traveling and a Floods of Water and then a remix of both. Again, all 4 tracks on here are really good. You might like the sort of epic, almost like Native American tinged, maybe not Native American, but it has like a shaman type vibe to it with the vocal of Floods of Water, like the wise words of some old man that's lived to be 110 years old. And Traveling on the A side is my pick here. When I first put the needle on this to listen through it, the intro sort of lulls you, and you get to a point in the track, you're about 2 minutes in, you start to wonder, all right, what's going to happen here? And in the case of Traveling, it all came down to the lead synth that comes in. You'll hear it in the sample. Right when the sample starts, you're introduced, in my sample that I captured here, you're introduced to the lead synth, and it's just pure progressive house darkness. I mean, it caught me off guard because it came out of nowhere. And it also seemed to fit so perfectly well with the intro and the percussion that it was just something that I could immediately take myself to, like an old like super club venue, really dimly lit, big system. And this is the type of music that'll just take you way away. My fourth pick for you today is another killer double 12. This one is by the Greek, and it is featuring the vocalist Stephanie Vezina. Stephanie actually paired up with the Greek for two big releases on Shinichi. The other one that they did was the resin backed with a Wadi release. That resin, Wadi, and Alive are all featured in the Deep Dish Global Underground Toronto mix. Specifically, Alive is featured in the After Club mix. So if you're familiar with the Deep Dish Global Underground mix, there's an original double CD, and then somebody, maybe both of them, still paired up to do the third After Hours disc. So it's actually a 3-disc series. I think the whole thing is great, but specifically the After Club mix is really nasty. And speaking of the After Club mix, hang out to the very end of the episode. I'm going to feature my favorite track from that After Club mix that was not actually pressed to vinyl. It's like almost like criminal that track, it's like the secret weapon that never got put to wax, and I don't know why. But maybe if the owners, if Sharam, if Ali and Sharam from Deep Dish ever decide to resurrect Shinichi and bring back classics on wax like they recently did on the Yoshitoshi side, that would be the track to feature, in my opinion. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just as an aside, from the Yoshitoshi side, they resurrected old tracks like the Give Me Love remix, where Nicole Maldaber did a remix for it. They basically took like the original of Give Me Love, Alcatraz, and then added Nicole and had somebody else do another modern remix. So they're sort of like digging up the old classics, putting a new remix on, and they repressed them. So Yoshitoshi technically still is alive, whereas Shinichi pretty much stopped doing vinyl. I think their last one was in 2008. But anyways, getting back to this here, this is, I would say, a contender for probably one of the top 3 releases on the entire label. And all four versions of Alive are really smooth and really good. It was hard to even pick one. I went with the G-Pal just to give G-Pal a shout out. I think he's a good producer and really did a good job of straddling that tribal progressive hybrid line. Tribal progressive is really what he was known for. Stephanie crushed it with her vocal. It's one of the best progressive house vocals of all time. Right up there with some of the vocals that James Holden would feature when he was in his progressive and progressive trance days. So if you're going to invest in really anything from this episode and you don't have a lot of money to spend, maybe just start with this, because this is just butter.
There's a world calling to me, over land and beyond time. Answer I find. Will you wait for me? For me? Will you wait for me?
So everything I presented to you up to this point was chronological. We started out in 2002 with the Bidlow release. We had 3 from 2003, and now getting into the tail end of Shinichi as it started to fade out, we have this Holmes Ives release from 2005. It's called 8 Letters. I've always really liked this vocal. I found this to be I back in the day, I when I was Winamping and Napstering, I would. This was one of the progressive Shinichis that I downloaded and listened to a lot. So I have a nostalgic attachment to this. And for me, it all really comes down to the two Tommy Boy remixes. There's the I think just the Tommy Boy vocal remix. I'll have to look at the exact naming of it. And then there was a dub. But they're both basically based on the same elements, but just arranged a little bit different. I think the dub's actually a little bit shorter. The other mixes on here, I'll be honest, they don't really do anything for me. But because this is so cheap, like I said, you can get a lot of these for $6, $7. It's a great investment. You can still sit there and rock out and feel the high energy of the Tommy Boy remix. So nice vocal. Some of the remixes on here, like the Mark Knight and the Earnshaw, I think are because it's '05 right now, you're starting to get away from traditional progressive house where it was like progressive and tech house elements and starting to drift a little bit closer to the electro craze. So it's just not as much for me. But that being said, if you can get this for I think $7, $8, a really nice investment just for the Tommy Boy. That's all for my Shinichi Part 1 classics. Stay tuned for Part 2 at some arbitrary date in the future. Feel free to comment and let me know what you think about these picks. And feel free to make any recommendations. Maybe between now and when I do Part 2, I can make some other scores based on your recommends down below. Hope you enjoyed this and take care.